Hello, everyone, and welcome to the live stream post game show hosted by yours truly, Eric Smith and Jamal Lawrence over there to your left. Together,
Yep.
we make the Colts Cast podcast, delivering you anything and everything Indianapolis Colts. Check us out on Twitter. It's at the Colts Cast. That's our Twitter handle or X handle, if you want to call it X now. We are partnering up with Bleacher Report today, so let's get right into it. The Indianapolis Colts fall to the Jacksonville Jaguars on the road, 37-20. Pretty high scoring game, don't you say? But it was an absolute beat down in the first half. We tried to muster a comeback in the second, but ultimately fell short. With that loss, we moved to 3-3 on the season. Jaguars taking the lead in that division. I believe the Houston Texans just won 2 against the New Orleans Saints. Jamal, I'm going to just start off by saying, this game felt like, to me, it was winnable. But I think one thing took over today, and that was QB play. There was really one thing. It was the turnovers. The turnovers, something Gardner Minshew is pretty good at not doing. And here we are, right? Here we are losing 20-37. What do you got to say about it, man?
Yeah, I think it was a pretty sloppy, poor game all around. Very frustrating. Like you said, Eric, I think coming into this game, we all thought that this was a winnable game. We think about, of course, we've had the curse in Jacksonville. I think the last time we won there was in 2014, 2015, I believe. Yeah, 2014. So when we said to ourselves, oh, Minshew's back home. He's going there for the first time since being traded out. This should be a revenge game for him. He'll be feeling good. We said, we're not worried about it. We're in great hands with our backup quarterback who's played every single game and finished every single game. But one thing I noticed, Eric, the games he finishes, like once he comes off the bench, not the games he's starting.
Yeah,
that's clearly an issue. It's like he can be the relief pitcher, but he can't start off as the
starting
pitcher. Yeah.
Nope.
And that was just an all-around issue. When we thinking about this game from the beginning, very first drive, I said, wow, this is a big drive. Well, I believe it was 16 plays, drove all the way downfield. It was looking great. And then it stalled out hard with the field goal. Exactly what we didn't want to happen. And it's just like,
we got
all right,
points on the board. I'm not too mad about that.
I know, but I just like to see that 16-play drive where we drove all the way downfield. Let's figure out a way to capitalize. But you're right. Any points are better than no points. Any points are better than none.
I felt the first drive, we just saw that nickel and dime type of offense. A lot of short passes, a lot of throws where Minshew's trying to get the ball out quick. It was working. It was a highly efficient type of drive. It got us some points to start the game. He got the ball out quickly, but as you notice, Gardner Minshew does not move well within the pocket. I feel like his pocket presence isn't a or a strength that we can count on. And I think the Jaguars adjusted. They caught on real quick. They knew what was happening, and they started denying him right after that. I don't know if you talked about his stats yet, Jamal, but 33 of 55 for 329 yards, average 6 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, took 3 sacks. Yeah, it was not a great game. I felt like we could not establish the run at all. I mean, let alone even try. Did we? Because I felt like we had 5 carries going almost into halftime. And, we talk about the run game last week. We dominated. That's where Zach Moss ate at. And he was only existent in the pass catching game, it felt like today. I didn't really see him. We did not attempt a lot of runs, right?
No, we didn't. So total, I think we had 17 runs, and that was including 2 from Minshew, and throughout the entire game. And going back to what you were just talking about, where him not being a presence really in the pocket, I mean, obviously Jacksonville knew that. So I expected the Colts to come out with a real heavy 1-2 punch with this JT and Zach Moss combo. Steichen said, JT will be ramped up today for us. We've seen what Zach Moss has done over the past couple of weeks. So my initial thought is, okay, well, if we know that Minshew could have some issues in the pocket with the pass game, and maybe he's a little nervous with protection. Of course, we had Ryman playing right tackle because Braden Smith was out and Freeland playing left tackle. So that's kind of foreign, Why not kill him with the 1-2 punch all game long and make them respect what we have? But it just didn't happen like that. It didn't happen. I think in the first half we had 6 or 8 rushing attempts total, or something ridiculous for these 2 power backs we have back there.
Yeah, which is not normal for us. We that's what we need to open up the passing game. We need to establish the run. That's kind of part of our identity. And yeah, Jonathan Taylor not being ramped up. I guess you could call it ramped up. He had a few more carries this week, but 8 carries for 19 yards. Didn't do anything on the ground, but he did have that home run type of play. You know, he did catch 5 passes, 46 yards, one being that 40-yard crosser, which I thought was great. It was good to see him back in that type of form, you know, rare form for him. But man, the offense just looks completely different with Gardner Minshew on the field versus Anthony Richardson. Like when you have Richardson back there in shotgun, defenses have to account for him. So, you know, they have to stay honest. Things change in their formations, but you're not scared of Gardner Minshew taking off. It just changes the dynamic of our offense and how it operates. You know, Richardson mitigates a lot of our weaknesses that we have on the Indianapolis Colts this year. So that was one thing I saw, but two, where was the downfield plays until we got to
Garbage time?
Garbage time, trying to get our comeback? I mean, only a handful of plays going over 10 air yards. It was absolutely crazy. We need those explosive plays to move the chains. We can't just dump and dink, get these check downs. It just doesn't work like that. And yeah, as you could see, Jamal, the playbook was restricted. I'm sure everybody in the chat knew that coming in, that it would be a little restricted. But man, we didn't start seeing downfield passes until the second half, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the part that was just most frustrating. I mean, we can, like you said, we can nickel and dime all day with the 5 and 7 yard passes, dump passes, but when they don't get us anything, we're just put back on square one because we're not moving down the field. As we saw later on, which I know we'll get to this part, but I just want to skip ahead to the fourth quarter during that garbage time when Granson made those 2 big catches, two huge plays for us, put us in scoring position that quickly. But let's backtrack to where we're currently talking about in the game in the first half, where none of that was a factor besides that one JT 40-yard reception. There was none of that throughout this, and it just set us up for failure because we quickly went from having these this first and 10 to a 2nd and 7 or 2nd and 3 to be still sitting at a 3rd and 7 because we've done something bad, or maybe even a 3rd and 4, well, then we try to run the ball on 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, instead of just trying to get a quick pass off. I mean, our back is against the wall. I don't know, we're going to try to run 9 feet instead of just getting a quick pass off for 9 feet if we have been successful with the 3-4 yard pitch and catch each time.
It was so bad. Funny part is we were moving the chains when we were starting to chuck the ball downfield, when Minshew was hitting Michael Pittman downfield, Alec Pierce, things like that. Mm-hmm. I just felt like we could have used that at the beginning of the game. But as everyone in the chat's been saying, run the damn ball. It is pretty simple when you just signed Jonathan Taylor to a $42 million contract and Zach Moss has been a bulldozer on the ground. I'm not like, we've praised Shane Steichen up until this point, but you know, he's the play caller. What is going on? Why are we not running the ball? Why can't we run the ball? I felt like the offensive line was pretty, you know, decent today. They were good. I just felt like we couldn't open up those running lanes, but we didn't even have a chance to try because we weren't attempting to run the ball. I mean, Minshew throwing over 50 times. I don't know. That is not a recipe to success to me.
No, it's not, especially because the first drive started off so smooth with him going 9 of 11 for the first drive. We're like, all right, this is looking good. But then he finished the first half 16 of 25 with 135 yards and interception. So it quickly shifted after that first drive to where we're in trouble. Those other 30 passes in the back, you know, on the second half all came from basically us just playing 25 points behind. We had to figure out a way to try to make up some time. So again, another hard thing that was just an issue for us, and inconsistencies across the board. We got to run the ball. We got to figure out, you know, Josh Allen, even though he had that one big strip sack, besides that, their defensive line was not tearing us up as much as I thought they would have. So we had no reason to not utilize these 2 weapons in the backfield in Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor the way they should have been.
But with any little bit of pressure, I felt like Gardner Minshew was just, I mean, he seemed like he was under duress. Like that 3rd interception he threw, why did he throw it off his back? But he didn't need to do that. He clearly did not need to do that. Underthrew Michael Pittman. Boom. 3rd interception in the end zone. I mean, his other 2 interceptions were basically gift wrapped as well. They weren't great. The first one, I could maybe give him a slap on the wrist on because I don't know what was going on. Not sure if it was miscommunication or not, but there were like 5 Jag players there. The second one was just a wobbly, horrible pass. Um, it was terrible for any pass over 10 yards downfield. Gardner Minshew just was not accurate, was not great. I mean, he is one of the main reasons we lost this game.
Yeah, and honestly, there should have been even more interceptions. Just the fact that those linebackers and some of those DBs couldn't catch. We got lucky with that because it could have been easily a 6 interception game for him, without question. So those are issues. Those are big issues that make me nervous because if he got rattled that early on, that's going to be an issue come. As we get deeper into this season. I mean, right now, back is against the wall. We say all the time that the easiest way to the playoffs is winning the division. Well, we obviously showed today that that's an issue, but
possible.
Yeah, it's impossible. So it makes me nervous with him moving forward. I mean, it's going to be hard to continue to build confidence when you're folding this early on during your time to shine. So I don't know, man. It makes me nervous for this offense. It's going to get interesting to see what happens, but I don't know if we need to put some split back there or
I saw it on a few plays.
Yeah.
And I know one was successful near the end zone, but it wasn't enough to get the job done. Our rushing game was non-existent. I felt like the star receiver today was Alec Pierce. He's been getting a lot of slander recently, but I felt like he was the best receiver in this game. You can say Michael Pittman maybe was, or Josh Downs even.
I was going to say Downs.
Yeah. But see, Josh Downs was great in the first quarter, and then it was kind of non-existent. I know he had the touchdown grab, but Alec Pierce, to me, I mean, the stats doesn't do him justice. He only had 3 catches for 25 yards, but I believe he had a DPI on him. I'm not sure, but he made that great one-handed grab, and I don't know. He seemed to be there when we really needed him, when we really needed some plays. Josh Downs, I will agree. His route running was great. He was 5 for 21. Michael Pittman, 100-yard game. He was exceptional. He had a big 40-yard grab as well when we started pushing the ball downfield. So, I mean, I will argue for Alec Pierce just because he stepped up when it was needed, but I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue against if someone said Michael Pittman or Josh Downs. So.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and I'm just glad to see that we had a little bit of variety with the ball today. Again, it sucks that a lot of it came during that garbage time, but when I look at our receptions across the board, I mean, we see that Pittman had 9, Moss had 6, Downs had 5, Taylor had 5. So there was a little bit of some spread throughout the way, and of course Granson. I mean, his numbers are a little inflated because he has those two great plays at the end of the game. But yeah, I mean, I don't argue with that at all, man. Pierce, that one-handed catch was a phenomenal catch and got us that first down that we needed. So I can't argue with that.
Yeah, but this offense, and with the Anthony Richardson news, possibly having surgery to end his rookie year. That's really going to put a damper on this offense, on this entire season, just for any Colts fan, for all the Colts Nation. So I don't think that's been confirmed yet, correct? That he
no, it hasn't yet, but and it's hard right now to listen to national media for obvious reasons. But Eric, I think it kind of goes back to what I was talking about on our pregame episode when we kind of talked about this situation where a lot of people may not want to see him have surgery, but after you get a couple of opinions, that grade 3 is kind of teetering that line where it may be in the best interest to get that surgery just because you don't want to go through all this work of rehabbing to just find out there's still an issue when you can potentially, have maybe a quote minor procedure, unquote, we know how procedures go, that could possibly save you in the long run. So I don't know. Of course, it'll be another couple of weeks, I'm sure, before we officially find out. But I think whispers will continue to come out over the next 2 or 3 weeks of what the move is for him.
Yeah, at this point, if that's the best course of action for him, I personally want to see him on the field. But if he is not healthy, if he has a possibility of re-injuring and making it even worse down the line, we can't do that. We need to protect our quarterback for the future. So if that's the route we got to go, I'm all for it. But enough about this offense. They weren't great today. Let's talk about this defense because I
They
would
weren't
say
great today either.
they weren't great, but I don't think the Colts offense did them justice. I mean, it just seemed like Doug Peterson and Jacksonville knew how to pick apart our zone defense. They were doing it all throughout the game. They were finding holes pretty easily. They couldn't get off the field today, and that was bad. But like I said, they didn't get help from our offense. I felt
Yeah.
like a lot of drives were 3 and out, and defense is right back on the field. I feel like we weren't able to generate pressure up front like we've done in many games to kind of alter how the quarterback plays, which is
Mhm.
bad for us because we definitely need that front four to generate pressure, to cause that havoc, to make the quarterback make mistakes, to throw it in double, triple coverage, to force throws, things like that. So I felt like that wasn't there. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, I agree that the pressure wasn't there the way we needed it, and but was there were a lot of penalties. Man, we were the defense side of the ball. I was getting a little frustrated, which I'm sure everybody else was too, with some of these offside penalties or neutral zone infractions, whatever, because these are things that this is discipline. I know the hard count is hard when you're out there, and I know that when you kind of get in a rhythm, that you want to make sure you're explosive. And I'm sure being in the situation that the defense was, where they're constantly on the field, they're getting tired and they're working constant, every single play. They want to have a little bit of an advantage. But these simple plays are the things that happen when we went from having the Jaguars in a position of being on third down, or second and long, to now all of a sudden they're in a second and short, or they just converted that third down to a first down, and now they're going to be on the field for another set of plays because of a simple mistake, where you just got to sit back, relax, take a deep breath. You can still win the battle even if you don't get off the ball first. That's just the reality of it. You're strong enough, you're quick enough, your technique, D-Buck especially, his technique is great enough that he didn't have to win off the ball. Is it an advantage to win off the ball? Absolutely. But it's not a necessity for him to win off the ball because he can work it. So I was a little upset with seeing those penalties because those are issues that cause big issues. I mean, those are things that cause big issues and allow the Jaguars to continue to score and capitalize on their drives.
Right. And I see some people in the chat talking about soft zone, Gus Bradley. Our corners, yeah, I would say our corners did not play well today. They were getting cooked in some situations, and in some
Yeah.
other situations, I saw some pretty good plays. We were able to get the Jaguars off the field a lot of times from good coverage, good cornerback play. But yeah, I do think for the most part, for example, they were taking advantage of Juju Brents today. He's a rookie.
Yeah.
Very understandable, but testing his awareness on the field, it's making those decisions in that zone defense. And for example, when Christian Kirk just ran right past him for that touchdown pass, it was things like that. Did he believe there was deep safety help? Was he supposed to get Christian Kirk? Was he supposed to cover him? Things like that. I think that's something we need to work out on the defense, but he did have an interception. So that was good, even though
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence threw it right to him. But yeah, those neutral zone infractions at the beginning of the game on the hard counts, like one of them, I'm like, okay, they got us. But
Yeah.
back to back, what is going on, man? Right? We just
Yeah.
have to be more disciplined than that. And you look at the Jags, you look at their box score stats, like they didn't kill us. Trevor Lawrence only threw for 181 yards, 2 touchdowns, interception. On the ground, ETN only averaged about 3 yards a carry. I don't know, man. It felt like just having those interceptions, those turnovers, things like that. That's what really killed us. Them getting great field position. James Agnew returned a 50-yard kickoff
Mhm.
return, things like that. They're playing on short fields. I don't know. I really think this game was winnable. They weren't exactly killing us. None of their receivers had over 50 yards, things like that. I'm trying to shine a light on this defense because I do feel like they didn't play as horrible as that 37 points kind of states.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that, man. I think it really just came from those 14 points in 16 seconds. That's what I think when the momentum left the building for the Colts and Jacksonville, just took over. And I see in the chat, you hated watching that in person. I was frustrated watching on my screens. I can imagine how obnoxious those fans were at the game hearing that. So that's hard, man. But those momentum shifts like that just really it showed you right there, Eric, how something so small can make such a huge difference. The turnovers, like you said, the big punt returns, all these things that should not be a factor for us. Essentially, it was just a snowball effect, and the Colts just were down for the ride and did nothing to adjust the entire game.
Right. So, like, I just felt like I don't want to take a crap on this defense because I felt like this was a winnable game. We just needed our offense to come up. We were better on third downs. We had more total yards throughout the game. Yards per play were higher. Everything looks better on paper, and then you go over to the turnover section. Even like time of possession, we had that. Then you go to the turnover section, and you see those 4 turnovers to their 1, and that just changes the game completely. And I think that's the moral of the story, man. Don't turn the ball over, and you can win a football game. So yeah, defense. I got D-Buck's jersey on. I saw when he swallowed up Trevor Lawrence.
Oh yeah.
I mean, D-Buck did his thing. Needed more of those, man. But Trevor Lawrence is a baller. As a Colts fan, we need to understand that the level of quarterback play was eye-popping in this one. When you look at the differences between Trevor Lawrence and Gardner Minshew, Lawrence made some mistakes. Gardner Minshew made way more mistakes. So,
yeah, absolutely, he did. And to me, all that tells me is going into next week's game, I like people said in the comments, we got to run the damn ball. It just has to happen. There's no reason why we're at 13 carries total, or excuse me, 17 total carries with 15 of those coming from our 2 starting runner, our power backs, the other 2 coming from our quarterback. It just can't work like that. We can't have him throwing the ball 55 times because it isn't working. That isn't going to work out like that in the long run. We have to be consistent, build this run game, make them stack the box, and then pass the ball, play action it out, do what we need to do. We got to make them honor something because they were just disrespectful all the way around. That's all it was.
Yeah, I thought we were going to start the game running the ball, but I think the first drive might have been like a 9 or 11 passes. Yeah,
it was 11. Yeah, 11 passes on a 16 play drive. It's crazy.
Uncharacteristic of Indianapolis. But yeah, I agree, Marcus. I didn't think the defense played too bad considering field position. And I hope people do understand that. And this may be a rocky season going forward. I like I said plenty of times before, I thought this was a game we had to win. We needed to end that curse. I mean, just for the momentum, kill this superstition that's held above our heads. Come back home against Cleveland, going in 4-2 on top of your division. That would have been great. Now, after what we've seen from the quarterback play, from our offense, people are, I mean, I even saw on Twitter, people wanted Sam Ehlinger at halftime. I mean, that's how bad it was. They were talking about Carson Wentz too, like things like that. That when you have your fans saying that on social media, something is not going right, and we've taken a big turn from that high we were riding when we had Anthony Richardson, when we just beat the Tennessee Titans. Everything's kind of just shifted backwards. It's crazy what one game can do.
Yep, it is. It is. And it's scary. But Colts got to figure something out. It's the season is not over with. There's obviously a lot more games to play. We still got 13 games left. Or excuse me, not 13. Ooh, that's not math. 11 games left. 11 games left. So we got to figure something out, and it starts with the Browns. I mean, I hate to be that person, so you go start 1-0, but you got to start fresh the new week. You got to mention you got to put this behind you. Figure something out. Come out with a chip on your shoulder next week since you didn't have one this week. You said plenty of times in pregame stuff, oh, I'm not worried about the Jaguars. I don't have any kind of vendetta against them. Well, you better have a vendetta against the Browns, because we need to see some aggressive play coming out of this team moving forward. And Steichen has to open up this playbook, man. Trust your playmakers. Trust your playmakers. I feel like he kind of played it tight just to start off with. Be aggressive. Worst case is you start off. You can't start off any worse than what we saw, So just let the floodgates open up and have fun, and just pick it up from there.
We'll see, man. We'll see. Or, if we end up losing the next few games, y'all might be hearing Marvin Harrison Jr. out my mouth a little bit more.
Got to trade the farm, dog.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just if Richardson's season's over, that definitely hinders our offense to, just what we saw today. Now, Jacksonville Jaguars are a talented, very good team, but dang, if we can't beat them. We can't beat this team once in our division. What does that make us? So,
yeah,
that's all I got today, Jamal.
That's all I got too, man. Oh, What a hell of a game.
Yeah, that's going to be it for us, everyone. Thank you for listening to us on the live stream Colts post-game reaction today. Of course, if you didn't catch us at the beginning, our podcast is the Colts Cast. Go check it out if you're a Colts fan. We're live on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, any platform you use to listen to podcasts. But of course, you guys take care. We're going to bounce back next week, man.
That's right. Take care. Go Colts, y'all.
Go Colts.